Welcome to Program Planning and Evaluation. This week, we're going to talk about logic models. We'll talk about the role logic models play in program planning and evaluation, and some of the typical components of a logic model, as well as how they come together to form a visual depiction of your plans. According to the Kellogg Foundation Logic Model Development Guide, a logic model is a systematic and visual way to present and share your understanding of the relationships among the resources you have to operate your program, the activities you planned, and the changes or results you hope to achieve. It is a different representation of your program theory, but has a lot in common and some overlap with the intervention theory we discussed last week. They both are useful, both the intervention theory and the logic model. They're both useful communication tools to engage internal and external stakeholders in discussions about the program. When thoroughly considered, both can help us detect gaps in the program logic and facilitate thinking about the program as a whole. Logic models can help ensure that all program components are aligned and point towards the desired outcome. Like so many things, there is no one right way to make a logic model. For the purposes of this course, we will follow the guidance offered by the Kellogg Foundation. As we talked about last week, inputs are the people, materials, technology, and other resources needed to carry out the program. Activities are the actions of the planned program. They are the things we will do to bring about the desired changes. Outputs are the direct result of those actions. Outcomes, sometimes broken up into short-term and medium-term outcomes, are the changes in attitudes, beliefs, behaviors, or the status of specific groups of people. The changes may occur in the target population or in another group who can influence outcomes in the target population, like community leaders, elected officials, or organizations. And finally, impact. Impact is another word for long-term outcome. In many cases, it is the same as your goal, your ultimate health outcome in a community or population. This slide shows all the pieces coming together. Using if-then statements, you can check the logic of a program. If these resources are available, we can implement these activities. If we carry out these activities, we will create these specific outputs. If these activities are conducted and these outputs are created, these outcomes will come about. And if these short and medium long-term outcomes occur, we will have the desired impact. Another way, my preferred way actually, to read a logic model is from right to left. If we want to create this particular impact, we must first create these outcomes. To generate those outcomes, there are certain activities and related outputs that must be performed. To conduct those activities, certain resources are required. Either way, whether you read the logic model from left to right or right to left, doing so should reveal gaps or holes in logic. Doing this with community stakeholders is an important opportunity for engagement and will allow you to refine your program theory. Before we wrap up the discussion of logic models, I want to show you a few examples of logic models. Here's one, and here's another. You can see this one has some additional information, assumptions, and theoretical underpinnings they've included, as well as measures. And another. So let me share another perspective. I want to mention that there is some debate about the use of logic models. One of the recommended readings for this week addresses this debate from the vantage point of strategic philanthropy. Some argue that logic models, like the ones we've looked at today, are too rigid and are unrealistic for solving complex problems. They propose instead an approach called emergent strategy. This approach combines initial planning with a recognition that new problems and solutions will emerge during the course of the program. I think this is a wise observation, and yet at the same time, it doesn't negate the importance of creating a plan to start. The process of developing a causal theory, an intervention theory, and a logic model that carefully examine the assumptions and connections between the various parts of a program is still important. It's also still widely accepted and expected by most public health funders. And as we execute the logic model, we must remain flexible and adapt our plans as we learn and as the environment changes. In conclusion, I want to share just how important logic models have been at multiple points in my career. Here are 3 examples that were developed during my time at Susan G. Komen for the Cure. In each case, the creation of the logic model was a group effort that served to communicate and clarify what we were doing and why. How was our work reducing premature mortality from breast cancer and improving quality of life among those with breast cancer? That's what we sought to answer in each of these logic models with different groups and in different ways. In another role, I was charged with leading a complex effort to expand access to sexual and reproductive health care in the South. When I started, I realized that a lot of different people were involved in this effort and were implementing a variety of tactics, but there was no clear theory of change. Early on, I facilitated an exercise at a retreat where a diverse group of stakeholders worked together to create a logic model of the program. This was one of the most important things I did in my first year in that role because it created clarity, cohesion, and an important document to communicate our plan to funders, board members, and other senior leaders. I don't have a picture of that logic model, but it was a really important moment in that year and in the program as a whole. I hope you find the exercise of developing logic models as useful as I have. And as always, if you have any questions, please contact your instructor.